Hi, my name is Rachel McLeod, and I am a licensed clinical social worker and emotional wellness coach. And today I want to be talking about that time, that moment when your anxiety symptoms are getting worse and you're really considering medication. And I really think this is an important thing because I wish people would deal with their symptoms before, right? They get big. And the nature of anxiety is to grow because your brain keeps building around it to keep protecting you. And so, where there was one little issue, it can really begin to roll. And if you are a hard headed, high achieving woman who's very driven like myself, these things can get kind of out of hand. And so, and then there is the rest of us also who are just really um, deeply rooted in our families and our communities and our purpose and our jobs, and we just can put ourselves at the back of the list of priorities. And this is a perfect place where you just keep putting it off and don't deal. Um, but a lot of times when the symptoms start growing and start getting more intense and they start showing up in more and more areas of your life, you can really start to feel boxed in, like you can't manage it the way that you used to be able to, where you used to have it in a little box and now it's seeping out and it's over here too, and you're trying to catch up with all these things. Um, you can really start to notice that you're not managing as well, and it takes so much more time to cope, and maybe you're starting to snap at people, or maybe you're starting to escalate into panic attacks or worry, or you're just noticing that a lot of your time and energy is moving into dealing with, coping with, avoiding, recovering from symptoms of anxiety. Or you might notice that your relationships are being hurt by the anxiety. Many people will start to think about medication because of how it's affecting other people. And so that's really one of the times people will start to say, hey, I think this is getting out of hand. Maybe you need some medication. Um, Other times you just might find yourself exhausted mentally, physically, emotionally because of the journey anxiety is taking you on. And this can really be a time when you're like more alert to it, and what's happening in there is saying maybe we need some medication. Maybe we should try some medication. If you're just feeling like you need more support, right? You're trying therapy, you're doing your yoga, your meditation, you're walking, you're breathing, and you're just like it's not working. And that can also be a time when you're thinking more about the medication piece. And um, one of my least favorites, but totally get it, is when people just don't want to deal with their symptoms anymore. And they start thinking about medication. Now, I like that piece because I am for not dealing with symptoms anymore. I am sign me up for that team. And I'm already on that team. So I am for that. But some people really are using medication to never deal with their anxiety, and that's tough, and that's an okay choice. I mean, I am not one to judge you. Everyone gets their own life journey, but I'm here to say, I I think that's the least awesome reason, and you can get the same result with never having to deal with it by doing a little bit of work to deal with it and then eliminating those symptoms. Um, but regardless of where you're coming from in this, seeking out medication support is a real thing. It's a popular thing. It is the go-to of many doctors in our world, and you might have one of those. And it's it's been one of the best supports we've had in a really long time, but it is not the only support, and it's being quickly replaced. There's research now that's showing very beautifully that proper treatment is much better than medication in the long term. But I want to talk about medication, and then specifically that point where you're just looking at it, right? Because a lot of experience here, and I want to inform your decision um, and hopefully really steer you down the path of really resolving these issues at the root. And so First of all, I want to tell you that I am not at all against medication. I am pro medication in for support. I think getting support for your symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress. I'm talking about anxiety here, but they all have the same root, and so I I lump them all together a lot of times. Um, but getting support, medication support with this is an awesome idea if you need that kind of support. And since I'm not able to get in your brain right now or your life and see if you need that kind of support, I can't tell you if you're that person or not. But I think that um, if you are, there is no shame in that because let me tell you, if you've got symptoms of anxiety, depression, or traumatic stress, what's happening in your brain is very similar to what would be happening with a broken bone. It's creating a lot of pain. You really shouldn't be using it all that much, and it needs to heal. And so, what's going on in your if you didn't have like if you broke your leg and you didn't use your crutches, your doctor would be very angry. And as you know, your substitute or your anyway, whatever. And for me, I feel like if your brain is experiencing an emotional challenge, an emotional rupture, an emotional malfunction or break, right, that creates symptoms of anxiety, depression, traumatic stress. I want you to not be trying to use that thing. I want you to let it heal, and I want you to use your crutches whether what as safely as possible. And we have lots of crutches. Please use them safely. That's for a whole nother conversation. I will leave that for another um, live. That's the word. But I want you to get the support you need. I want you to. I also want you to know that I don't expect you just like a break, and brains heal way faster than bones do. Um, just like you would have a break, I would expect you to make a full recovery and not use those crutches anymore, not need them, right? But what we would do is we would start the healing. We would heal the root problem and then we would expect the symptoms to go away, right? But when you're at that place where it's not working, it's getting worse and it's taking over your life, that can be a totally fine time to get some medication support. Now, there are other people that are hearing that you know, other people that are just like, I've tried medication. I don't like what it does to me. It turns me into a zombie. I hate it. I don't want this. And my symptoms are getting so bad, I don't know if I have any other choices. Right. And so there are many of you on that, in that place as well. And that's okay. Many of my clients who are there never start a medication again and they heal beautifully. I hear that as part of other parts of your brain coming and communicating. Your subconscious, your survival system is saying, we don't want medication anymore. And then there's other people that are taking medication right now. Maybe your symptoms are still getting worse, and you're like, how much more medication am I going to be able to have to take here? This isn't working. And that's a really frustrating point. And that is a really strong indication that it's really time to get to the root because there I have had the experience of working with people where no matter how many medications they take, there are just so many symptoms. And and that is a really tough place to be. And so wherever you're at in this journey, right here with your consideration of getting on medication, um, or getting on more medication, this is really what I want to talk about. Um, and so I want to talk about so it's totally fine to get support and it's totally fine to do this without support. It really is going to depend on does it work or not. That's really ultimately um, how I measure interventions. Medication is an intervention. Is it going to work or not? And what I can tell you, it probably will work for support, but it's not going to work. It's only going to work at the symptom level. It's not going to resolve the root dysfunction and the root malfunction. And that is what needs to be resolved in order to have optimal health and to heal and to not pass this crap on to your kids and not having this stuff infusing all of your decisions that you're making, all of your relationships, taking up your time and your energy. And these active symptoms, when your brain is doing this malfunctioning process, it is interrupting and blocking many of your body's natural healing processes like detoxification and many other things. That's I'm gossiping. That's not my area of expertise, but I hear them talking about this over there in the medical world. And I'm glad they are because this emotional component is the foundation of physical health. And so this is one of the reasons why I'm so strong in saying, let's take care of this piece because the health complications are huge for people that have ongoing symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress. And the brain is also very resilient. So is the whole body. So you have these things and you resolve them. And usually this makes you much, much stronger. So there's so many benefits in healing the stuff at the root. And this is my train going on in my backyard. Not my backyard, my office's backyard. Um, but, you know, what what you want to do here, whether you get on medication or not, like I said, is resolve this at the root. And if you've been following me or watching any of my other videos, I really talk about this a lot. I have a very specific process for this that has worked tremendously and really can help people resolve these symptoms on an average of 2 to 6 months, which is wonderful, especially if you've been struggling with symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress for decades. And why this is so quick is, one, I have people work a lot and do this work a lot, but it's really about helping the brain heal itself. And the brain is so good at this, but it does need support. And medication does not help it with that process, with the work it needs to do. Okay. And so, and that's really when we talk about getting to the root issue, it's like, we don't do this. Well, we do, but we don't like to do this. And as consumers, we don't like it if you go to your doctor and you need open heart surgery and they say, hey, take this medication and you'll be fine. We're like, or you won't even notice it. We're like, you won't notice it. Fix it, man. But with mental health, we don't do that. We say, oh, okay, let me take that medication and, I won't even notice it. What? Right? I mean, what is that? So that's my deal with medication. Don't just take medication and not resolve this at the root. Because let me tell you, this is one of those things that's like a seed of a very infectious weed that if you plant this, if the seed of anxiety, depression, traumatic stress is in your garden, it's going to grow. And not only that, it's going to grow in the lives of your business and business jumped out there fast, and in the lives of your children. If you don't have children, your relationships, and it'll go there too. This does not stop. This has no boundaries. This will grow everywhere. And so, but that same root, if you take that root out, if you take the problem out by the root, it pulls out from everywhere. It doesn't show up any of those places because you pulled it out by the root. That's important. That's important to this process. And symptoms of anxiety, they're just indications that there is there underneath there. If you go down layers and layers and layers, there is a real problem that needs to be solved. That's all that symptoms are indicated of. Now you get up there and you suffer and you're like, make this go away. I get it. But it's your brain's way of communicating or expressing the problem it has at the root. And so when you resolve that symptom at the root, it cannot create or express as symptoms of anxiety, depression, or traumatic stress because it is no longer there. Right? And so this is a really, really powerful thing. And also, let me tell you that as you resolve the root issues, your brain goes into a total healing process where it will do so much more work than, like, you go in there and you like take this root out and you pluck it out and your brain is like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do with all this space? Look at this. Oh man, that project that we wanted to do, we can put that right in there. I mean, your brain just goes nuts. when you take one of these root things out. And that's why people have so much growth after the resolution of these things. And the resolution of this cannot be addressed by just talking about it. That is why talk therapy is not one of the effective interventions for eliminating symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress. When you are talking about these symptoms, you are learning about them, you are understanding them, you are getting insight, but that part of the brain is not what creates symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress. It's not. So you can't really work with that part to get to the root because that part of the brain does not have the problem. We want to get past that part and talk to the other parts. Survival system, what's up? Why all the fight, flight, freeze, or faint? That's who we want to be talking to. And the survival system would say, well, I just got some word from a subconscious mind that there was something really bad happening over here. Or did you hear what the body said? He said there was he whoever they said that there's a problem. So I put on the alert, right? That's what's going on. Your thinking center does not, your survival system does not care what you're thinking about. It doesn't care what you're talking about. It cares about what's going on with all of your senses and with all of the other parts of the brain, with what's going on internally in your body. That's what it cares about. And that's where we need to solve this problem at the root. And that does not happen in talk therapy. Okay. So like, I love it. I love talk therapists. I love talk therapy. That's awesome. But do this first and then go hang out with them. They're amazing. Heal that root situation. And then what your brain's going to do is say, whoa, what can we do with this stuff? Or, oh, we're missing this little piece over here. What are we going to put in there? I don't know. That's a great time for a talk therapist. It's a great time. So really, I want you to understand that these symptoms of anxiety, depression, traumatic stress are really, really important to healing from them. Okay. And so when I have clients, you know, my biggest concern with people taking medication is that they have no symptoms. What are we going to work with? Wow. Because anxiety symptoms tell us where the problem is. And so, but I learned in my career early on not to worry about that anymore because this medication will take over, like it'll take and hold all these symptoms, right? And it'll kind of put them in a bag and hang them up on the wall. You don't have to deal with those ones. But guess what? There are other ones hanging out still. And they're showing up. And those are the ones we can go after while your other symptoms are over there hanging in a bag where you don't have to deal with them. I think that's lovely. I like that. It feels like divide and conquer to me, which I'm all for. Let's divide this and conquer this. And so, because there is a certain weight, there is a certain amount of symptoms no one can handle well, right? And really, if you have 1,000 symptoms, please consider strongly getting some medication support and an acupuncturist and a massage therapist and some lens neurofeedback and also come see me, right? Or the equivalent of me, right? Because it's hard to get this work done when you're dealing with flooding, and that those thousands of symptoms, that's flooding. And many of you are out there walking around with this going on and you don't even know. I've had 3 clients come to me recently that I am like, "Holy crap. You're like the amount of symptoms you guys have normalized and you're experiencing and you have no idea that this is too much is astronomical. And you are amazing and brave and I appreciate you. And there's no shame in that whatsoever. It's just real that it's a lot. And many of you have lived like that for so long that you're not even aware. It's just normal to you, right? And so but that might, and even if you're a person with 1,000 symptoms, you still don't have to do medication and you can still heal. There is that happens. And it's can be something that is a difficult thing to do. I have clients like that. And their recovery is longer because the first layer of the work takes longer. And that's okay. I have one person coming up in mind and incredibly symptomatic, lots of complex childhood trauma, and we couldn't get past phase one for a while, and that's okay. And now they're like doing it. Which that's actually why I have a mini piece to my program, my 8-week intensive, and it's the starter one for people like that. Because you got to stay in the first layer of this a little bit longer. And I'll talk about that a little bit later, but there's nothing wrong with that. Um, but most people can really get through all the layers really, really quickly, like I was talking about in the 2 to 6 months. And so let me see where I was at here. And I see a comment by Fran. I'm going to answer that. I'm going to put my brain back over here in the medication situation. Um, yeah, I was talking about you want to do this work and help. You want to help your brain walk through its natural healing process. Right? You want to take that symptom and you want to get to the root. I talk about this in many other videos. You can watch those. Otherwise, we will be doing this forever because I can talk about this for hours. So, but you're going to get to the root of this and you're going to resolve this at the root. And all of that work from the symptom down, you're going to want to use an intervention that helps, that engages your survival system and brings your whole brain together to resolve the root issues, which is the emotional distress, the distress in your body, and the fact that all of that stuff has to move through your brain's healing pathways and through its healing process into the front of the brain, where this is your understander. This is how you understand all the things, and we got to get all of these emotions and the physical pieces and all the pieces of the root issue and the symptoms into that part of the brain, where that part of the brain then looks at, makes sense of. It doesn't need any of our help. We just need to get all the stuff there, and then it will do the rest. And if it needs any help, you will know, because you will have symptoms of anxiety, or you'll feel, oh, I don't like this. Then you're going to use your intervention again, and you're just going to take a minute and help it. Like it goes like into a hiccup, like, or a little divot, and kind of can get stuck there, and you'll notice it. And if you're one of my clients, I train you to notice this, and then you can pick your brain up and move it past, and it can keep moving, and then you can resolve the whole symptom of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress, the whole root issue, which then it doesn't need to generate or express as symptoms. Um, so that's really, really important. And when we do this enough, we resolve each root issue. I have a client that came in recently, just started to me, and she was just like, "This is a bigger project than I thought it was." And I was like, we got this. This is nothing. Not that it's nothing. But what happens is this: our job is to get in there and help your brain do its work. And what's cool about the brain is, number one, you don't have to be perfect. Uh, I would have failed in every other medical field, right? Because I am not perfect. Neither are they. But we won't get into that at the moment, but I'm gonna tell you, I'm good at this because you don't need to be perfect. Number two, what happens is you resolve the situation at the root, right? You just take one and you get to the root and you resolve it and you get the brain working right in that root. And then you get the whole, like, your brain starts understanding this whole thing. And it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is here. And we should really change this. This is really messing us up. Yeah. Okay. And then it gets in there and does that. And then pretty soon it starts to change it and starts to heal it. And then it will come back and look at the whole and be like, we need to work on this piece now, because it's like it's looking at the puzzle, but we'll do the next one. And in the beginning, this is a little bit slow. So we need to do about 4 or 5, 6, maybe 10 of these ones, root issues. And then all of a sudden, there are nice parts of the brain that are nicely run and organized and cleared out. There are little pockets. And all of a sudden, the brain says, what if we put this and this together? Whoa. And then it starts weaving those together and says, oh, what if we put this and this together? And then next thing you know, it starts making this whole really nice thing in your inner world that is like you can jump on and bounce on. You don't fall into the abyss of despair and anxiety or depression and traumatic stress. It's fabulous. Now, what you will notice is that you'll have this nice area and you'll jump on it. But if you jump over here where there's not, you'll fall right back in. And that's okay if you do, because that lets us know where we need to build. And while you're down there, we're going to have you grab a symptom and we're going to use that to get to the root. And we're going to get to the root. And then we're going to do the same thing. And then your brain's gonna be like, oh, this is the piece that goes over here. And then it's gonna be weaving that thing together, right? And a lot of times it'll start going to grab the root before you get there. It'll be like, oh, we're gonna go out there and I bet that's gonna, it'll start working unconsciously, which is what it's supposed to be doing and what it should be doing. But it didn't because somewhere along the line, that process, that process that heals root issues got knocked off or disrupted, interrupted, and malfunctioned. And so that's really the work we need to do and that you need to do. And because of the brain's beauty and fabulous healingness, and the fact that we can resolve an issue, a root issue, in about 20 to 50 minutes, right? That's fast. This is why, I mean, this is why I can move people in such a fast time is that number one, if we're doing that together and then you're doing it independently is a good enough job, which is all that's required. This process, we can get through the first two layers very, very, very fast. And then your brain is like, let's do this. And you can really keep going. So I want you to understand that if you take medication only, you will be struggling with this for as long as you have these core root issues active, alive, and well. Okay. And that means that you could be taking medication for the rest of your life or battling with the symptoms that are created by these root issues. Right. But if you start to resolve the root issues, even if you have like some of the most horrific childhood experiences ever, and like thousands of them, which I have clients like that, then it doesn't matter. But and if you're somebody who's got a lot of symptoms and not a terrible, terrible, complex childhood trauma, which there are many of you out there as well, you just got this whole anxiety thing, or depression, or traumatic stress, and you had a pretty good upbringing. I find that you guys get through this super fast because there's not a lot of like building. When you have complex trauma, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't get built and wired in during childhood, and there's the nervous system is really, really dysregulated. It has been in that pattern for a really long time, so there's a lot of rebuilding and repatterning that goes along with complex childhood trauma, and that's fine. The brain's ready to heal at any time. But the less complex trauma you have, the faster you can expect to be out of these symptoms and back to a really wonderful brain function. So that's really what I want to share. And so okay, so and I want you to understand no shame in getting medication, but do this work. Resolve the root issues. Resolve them. And I have two testimonials that are coming to mind right now. I have a testimonial by a client named Kristen, and you can find that in my video section, or on my website, which I have included in the link there. She was this client that was about to start medication and was like, "This is getting worse. I need to go on medication." And she talks about how she found me and she told her doctor, "Hold on one second, let me try this, and if it doesn't work, I'm going to get back on the medication." She hasn't been on since, and it's been like a year and a half, two. I mean, right? So, and so since she graduated. And then I have another client, Corinne, who is on, there's a testimonial there on my website as well from her. And she is somebody who she shared about her panic disorder, and she was able to get off one of her medications already. So she's already in that process of coming off her medications and working through symptoms. So um, yes. Let's see. So those are some that you can look at because I want you to really, my message here is that authentic, true, deep healing is absolutely possible. And that these symptoms of anxiety really, they are the key to your freedom, right? So anyway, if you okay, now if this is something that you want and you feel drawn to see if I can help you with this problem, I you can learn more about working with me by going to my website, rachelmcleod.com. I do have an intensive 8-week program, and I have another program underneath that that's a less intensive 1-month program. It's just the beginning phase, and it is for people um, who are less stable, who are experiencing tons and tons of symptoms, and who want to do that work first so that when they jump into the 8-week program, they can really hit it and quit it, right? not feel like they're behind and, why are they flying through and I'm not? Um, and so that's what I have there. The 8-week program is a program where I teach you and work with you to eliminate symptoms from each level of your experience in your life and all areas of your life. We create a customized map based on your symptoms and stressors right now. And I teach you how to get to the root, and we do that work together. This 8-week program is a working program. We work. I work you. It is intensive. I have you doing this stuff for about 2 hours per day. And we get in there and rearrange how your inner world is functioning and help your brain do the healing work it wanted to do and it's been wanting to do. And then I teach you advanced strategies, stuff I did not even learn. After taking so many trainings, I had to learn these inexperience working with people's brains and multiple different brains. So, and then I realized, oh, there's a pattern here. I bet I could teach that. And that's really what I've been teaching now. So you will have more more strategy than most therapists in, especially early trained therapists um, in symptom elimination. And that's really my goal because I want you to be the best at helping your own brain work through its symptoms so that you can take you everywhere in your life and be well. And if your brain starts having issues, you can really support it. And plus that I find that competence, the competence of being able to support yourself is vital to the healing. And it's that piece where you, especially when you have so many symptoms, you can start to really pull away from yourself and not trust yourself and need a lot of external support and reassurance. Not support. That's a great thing, but reassurance, right? And it can be at an annoying level for yourself. Like I need this, but it's like to when you start to see that you are the answer and you have the skill, it does so much repair at so many deep levels that I make sure that happens when I'm working with clients. So, and then, yeah, so that's what we do. And then we look in the nooks and crannies where symptoms of anxiety, depression, or traumatic stress can hide, and we get those too. and then, and so anyway, it's a whole awesome 8 weeks, and it's anyway, I love it. And I love the community of women that have gone through my program. I have a Facebook group that is only them, and I continue to provide them with ongoing monthly support as a bonus just because we're always growing. So, and because I feel like I want to keep celebrating them and making sure they're inspired. Anywho, that's part of what working with me looks like. You can learn more when you go to my website. Okay, rachelmcleod.com. So let's see. I'm going to read Fran's stuff. And if anybody has any questions, you're welcome to drop them now. Um, Okay. Fran says, I'm giving myself exposure treatment for fear of heights. I get scared on escalators and other high places, not sure what the root is. Okay. Many times when we work on a project like this, we don't know what the root is. That's kind of the fun part. Maybe, maybe. It's fun for me. Um, but it's also annoying. So I want to give voice to that, and but a couple of things. So the deal is that you don't need to know what the root is. It's actually very reverse, and this is why talk therapy is not great for this. Um, you're you don't have a logical problem with fear of heights. Okay, you can think about like, yeah, you're safe, you're on this thing. You don't have a logical problem. That part of the brain is fine, right? But if you get up onto the escalator, your body starts tripping, right? So your heart starts racing. You have a somatic problem with heights, okay? And then all of a sudden, and also maybe as you get up there, you start seeing images or flashes. That's your subconscious and your survival center. That's these guys back here. You have a problem with them. They have a problem. And so the thing with something like fear of heights or any project that you're working on and healing and overcoming, you want to let those parts tell you what the problem is. So we have this a lot of reverse. This part wants to go back in and say, well, it's this, this, and this, and this, and this. How do you know? Oh, I'm speaking for them. No, you're not. They talk, they talk to your thinking center. And so we have this backwards a lot of times. And so you really want to start asking questions that bring this stuff up, or um, you want to start accessing the information that's in your body, right? And so that's why we want to ask questions that are designed to bring out the information from all the other parts of you, and even your conscious mind, because sometimes your conscious mind is not even aware of its own self, and it's got a lot of information. When you start to watch what it's doing, you can see where it's having difficulties. So you want to ask those questions that are designed to bring the problem out from those parts, and it will come out in their language. Like your body's language is in that tightness in your chest, right? That's the answer you're getting. Use an intervention there, right? And then you've got your subconscious mind. Maybe you're seeing pictures, maybe you're seeing images, maybe you're whatever. That is the communication. Maybe you're having nightmares about it and you're having dreams. That is the subconscious material. That's the communication. You may not understand what that means right now. Doesn't matter. That's it. We don't need to understand these other parts of the brain to honor them, you know? Like for instance, if you were to have a guest at dinner who spoke a totally different language, you could still honor them, and you could dishonor them if you wanted to too, which we do with these other parts of the brain. And I would encourage you to stop that immediately. Okay. So when you get this information, then use your interventions, right? And the four interventions I teach and I train people to use are emotional freedom techniques, thought field therapy, energy medicine, and EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. So, and once you do, like, let's say this chest thing, it's like you've got it. You're like, oh yeah, I hear you. And it's fluttering and it's so fast in there. And you're using your intervention. Your brain starts to convert it into something else and something that's understandable. And in information, because this part of the brain is kind of doing all that with some help and support from the intervention and also from the other parts of the brain. And, and then you will know the next thing, because sometimes this part of the body will once that part is when you use an intervention on it, it kind of deactivates it, and it's like if it was a thing, right? A big, and you use an intervention, you kind of crack it open, right? Um, yeah, it's just different. And then your brain knows what to do with all these little pieces. It doesn't know what to do with that racing heart, right? But it does know what to do with all those little pieces, which is why we want to crack it open. Okay. And then that next thing, a lot of times it'll get out of the way because your brain is not worried about that anymore, because it's already making connections with it and understanding it and meeting the needs there. And then maybe something else will show up, like your stomach is dropping. That's another piece of information, right? And so as you're working with that sort of stuff, then you will get to the root eventually, and your body will tell you the root. Um, yeah, it will tell you the root. You may not understand the information you're receiving, but it'll get there. And your survival system will also tell you. Maybe you start going up to an escalator and you start feeling this resistance, like, or maybe you start hearing this sound, I don't, that's your survival system that's saying, do not go up there, we will not live, right? And it's very catastrophic. It's either safe or dangerous, right? You're hearing it. It's telling you what its issue is. Use your intervention on it. Right? And then it'll crack it open, all the little pieces, and your brain will do stuff with it. And then it'll tell you the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And pretty soon you got all the pieces on the table. And then your brain is like, oh, I know what to do with this. And then you're not, none of those responses are coming up. And you can go to the top of the escalator and you're not distressed at all. And that's because you're working with your survival system. You're working with your body. You're working with your subconscious mind. And you're also working with your conscious mind. So, and it's with that stuff, your brain does. The deal is that you follow yourself, you follow these symptoms in, and you just want to get close enough to the symptom that you can spray some intervention on it. And your brain is like, that's great. Thank you. And then it's like, I got it from here. So you don't have to be precise, and you do need to be precise and exact, but you don't need to know if you're being precise or exact. You just keep trying, and it doesn't take very long. It just, it takes the matter of doing that and getting close enough. Because once you're close enough, you're using the intervention maybe for 5 minutes, maybe, and then it should kick up and resolve that. And you'll know that it's resolved when you can go up the escalator fully. You might notice that you can get to the escalator and then your survival system acts up, and then you want to stop and figure out, what did it say? What does that mean? And listen to it, and then use your interventions and help it heal. Help it heal, help the brain heal itself, because your whole brain will come together. Do we need to really be freaked out about this? I don't think we do. I think we do. But what about this and this and this and this and this? And then the survival system will say, I think that would actually work. And then we wouldn't need to be terrified about this. And then they go in with the plan, and they make the plan, make a program. And if it works, it'll become a subconscious program that'll just run automatically. So there's a lot of this stuff that you really want to do. But if you're going to do straight exposure therapy, I would encourage you to not do that, because you would have to really violate your survival system. And it can get really mad about that and then create bigger problems at the back end. You really want to work with your survival system so that it's happy along the process, and it can be. But I don't know how complex that would be, Fran. Your issue is you might use a couple of interventions and it'll just resolve right on up. That happens. You might need to really get some precise digging around what the root is. And digging, that doesn't even sound attractive. But you might need to do some more comprehensive root work. And so uh, anyway, yes. So yeah, Fran, that's the deal, and is that it is a somatic problem, and you want to work with the part of the brain that is actually having the problem, and that's why the talk therapy doesn't always work, and that we're trained to go to talk therapy, and talk therapy has a specific use, and it does not affect all the parts of the brain. So, and especially if it's a somatic problem and you're dealing with it on a conscious level, it's not going to work. Um, there are always exceptions to the rule, but I don't like this process to go slow. So I like to just match up with somatics interventions. And all the four that I mentioned do work specifically with the somatic issues. And if it's a subconscious issue, conscious stuff is not really going to affect it, especially it can really trigger the survival system that'll be like, what? And crash the whole party and be like, no healing here. And so that's really why we want to make sure that the survival system is good. So that's the deal. So having said all of that, wonderful connecting with you all. I am going to go run a kid off to their match, their practice tonight, and I will catch you all at another time. Take care.